Hello everyone, this is Michael Hurwitz from MIDI Kinetics. Today I thought I would do a live demonstration where I show you how I go about setting up some presets for Composer Tools Pro using some of the instruments in the Spitfire Albion One sample library collection. I'm not going to do the whole collection in this demo, but I will post it to the community forum when it's done, so you can take a look. For this demo, I think I'm just going to do the strings patch, and then we'll do maybe one of the Woodwinds, because I want to show you how you can transfer settings between presets to save yourself a lot of time. So let's start with the strings patch. I just want to go to the Advanced tab by clicking on this wrench here. All right, so in Composer Tools Pro, I'm starting with a totally blank version. So if I go to the directory, you can see that all of my preset slots are empty. So I'm just going to tap one and we can start editing it. I just want to set up the basic preset information. So let's go to Edit Mode and tap the title bar and we'll give it a title. Strings. All right, next I want to set up some search tags for the directory. So the developer, of course, is Spitfire. And the instrument, now this is an ensemble strings patch, so I'm just going to say strings. But Composer Tools Pro does have the various subcategories of instruments. So there's the woodwinds, and you've got brass, various unpitched percussion, pitched percussion instruments, voice, the individual string sections. But this is an ensemble patch, so let's just do strings. Let's actually go to the directory and just take a look at what we've done here. So now the preset has a title, and you've got some search tags there. So if I want to find all of my Spitfire libraries, I can do that. You can cross-reference by instrument, so the strings. And if you want to assign this as a favorite, just tap favorites and then hit the favorites button, and then you can filter by favorites. It's just very basic directory sorting, filtering, searching, etc. So let's start with the CC messages. So in Contact, the first one I'm going to do is Dynamics. So if I right-click, I can see that it's assigned to CC1. So let's go into Edit Mode, and let's tap the first fader. I'm going to enable it. And by default, all of the faders in Composer Tools Pro come assigned to CC1. So I don't have to do anything there. So let's just give this a label, Dynamics. And just want to try this out. And it's working. Now, I'm in full screen mode right now, and I like that a lot, but it probably is not a good idea for the demo, so let me turn that off. I'll go to Prefs, and you go to the View tab, and just turn off full screen faders. Cool. So the next one is Vibrato, that's CC21. So CC21, and the name is Vibrato. Give that a little test. Good. Next is Release, and that is CC17. So 17 and Release. Let's give that a little test. Oops. Yeah, it's working. Next is Tightness, CC18. Tightness. Works. Now the next one is Lush Verb, and when I right-click on that one, you'll see that there's no MIDI assignment, and I guess that's because Spitfire's assuming that most people are going to use their own reverbs in their DAW, so they just left that unassigned. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to leave it unassigned. Expression, of course, that's CC11. Everyone knows that. So in Composer Tools Pro, when you set the output to CC11, it's just going to automatically label it as expression. So 0, 1, 1, and expression. And it's working. The next set of faders are the microphone mix faders, and I believe that these just go up from CC22. Yeah, CC22, 23, 24, and 25. Okay, so in the next page of faders, let's tap the first one, and this is going to be CC22, and that's the close microphone. And 23, that's the tree mic. 24, that's the ambient mics. And 25 are the outrigger mics. All right, let's give that a little test. Cool, so now we have live control over the mix faders. Now the next thing is, we've moved all these faders into different positions. We've been playing around with them. And what I want to do is have some way to reset them to their default position. And that's exactly what this Send Defaults button is here at the top left of Composer Tools Pro. So the idea is that you set default values for whatever controllers you want, and then you double tap this button, and then it resets those controllers to the default position and sends them out to your DAW so that you can start fresh on the next passage of music. So what are the default values that I'm going to use? Well, really the only frame of reference that we all have is the default values that come loaded when you first load the patch. So those are the ones that I'm going to use. But of course, everybody has their own preference, so feel free to use whatever default values you find most useful. So what I'm going to do is just reload this patch. And we'll see what Spitfire has done here. Let me go back to the Advanced tab. Right, so Dynamics they've set all the way at the top. So default height, 127. That's all we need to do there. Vibrato, they've also set it all the way at the top at 127. 127. Release, it looks like they've put it right at the quarter way mark. So a quarter of the way would be at 32. 32. Next is tightness. They've put right in the middle, so that would be 64. Flash verb we skipped. Expression, that's all the way at the top. 127. Now, for the microphone positions, you could make the argument that these shouldn't have default positions because maybe the mix is something that you don't want to mess with. Maybe you set it at the beginning of your piece of music, depending on the requirements of the piece, whatever kind of mix you're going for. But since this is going out in the community and I want to do the default values that come when you load the instrument out of the box, I'm going to do what Spitfire has done here. And it looks like they've just got all the microphones off except for the tree microphone. So that's what I'm going to do. So the close microphone, the default height will be all the way down at 0. The tree mic all the way at the top. The ambient mic all the way down. And the outriggers all the way down. Okay, so now I can play with these faders as much as I want, move them all into crazy positions. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to double tap the Send Defaults button and keep your eye on the contact instrument when I do that, and you'll see all the faders snap back to their original positions. All right, ready? Here we go. Cool, so that's a really useful feature. Now before we move on to key switches, what I want to do is set up the multi-ball because we have this one fader that's controlling dynamics, and we've got this other one that's controlling vibrato. And what I want is some way to control them both at the same time, and that's exactly what the multi-ball is for. So I'll go to Edit Mode, and let's go over to the multi-ball page, and I'll enable it. And I only need one ball, so I'll just leave the number of balls on load to be 1. But there are 10 balls that you have available. So to edit it, I'll just tap the ball. And what I think I'll do is have vibrato be on this x-axis, left and right, and dynamics be on the y-axis, up and down. So I'm going to label this vib/dyne. I think that's fine. So the x-axis is vibrato, that was CC21. And the y-axis was dynamics, which is CC1. All right, let's give that a try. Cool, so you can see that as I move the multi-ball up and down, I'm moving the dynamics fader. And then as I move it left and right, I get my vibrato, so I can have both at the same time for really expressive control. If you want to turn off full screen multi-balls, just go to Prefs, and again, in the View tab, you can just turn off full screen multi-balls there. Awesome, so that's all we had to do to set up the faders for this preset. So let's move on to the key switches now. In Spitfire, there are kind of two main ways that you can control key switches. The easiest way, and the way that it comes pre-configured when you first load the instrument, is just using, regular key switch messages, regular note messages, just like a classic key switch. The other way is something called UACC, and that's Spitfire's own system. And the way that works is they've basically taken controller 32, controller number 32, and then all the different articulations that kind of exist in their universe, they all get their own unique value of CC32, like their own unique ID. So for example, pizzicato is always going to be CC32 at the value of 56. Spiccato is always going to be CC32 at the value of 42. And I'm going to show you how you can set both of these up in Composer Tools Pro. So let's start with just the basic key switch note messages. By default, the key switch area in Composer Tools Pro works just like a MIDI piano, and it outputs notes. So if I tap the key switch setup button and then slide over to key switch info, you can see that. So you can see it's just a MIDI piano with notes, and there's 128 key switches there. So since that's the way it's set up out of the box in Contact, technically all we should have to do is just play a chromatic scale here, and it should just work out of the box. So let's give that a try. I'm already on the spiccato key switch, but now if I press C#, I get spic/stack, pizzicato, col legno, long on E, long consort on F, F# is tremolo, G is low octave short, and G# is low octaves long. So really the only thing that we have to do here is just give these key switches a label. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go into edit mode and tap the first key switch. And this is going to be spiccato. Now, spiccato will fit on one key switch, but I'm just going to do spic because I think that's enough to convey what this key switch is. The next one is spic/stack. Now that's definitely going to run off the edge of the key. So what I need to do is force a line break here by putting a little bit of extra space. /stack. Next is pizzicato, so that's pizz. Next is col legno. Next is long. Let me just move this edit panel now to the other side. Long consort. Then tremolo, I'll just do trem. Low octaves short. Oops, and then low octave long. Cool, and that's done. Technically, that's all we need to do for this preset. I can play the notes and see what key switches I'm switching to, and it's all working. Now, if you prefer to look at the key switches as a grid, you can go to Edit Mode, tap the key switch setup button, and then where it says key switch layout, just switch it to pads. And that's exactly the same data as the piano layout. It's just a grid representation of the same stuff. I happen to prefer the piano layout, so I'm going to go back to the piano layout. But you can see that all the assignments are there exactly the same. All right, so let's do UACC. So with UACC, we need to send controller messages and not note messages. So that means we need to tell the key switch area that it has to stop sending its default piano notes. So the way we do that is in edit mode, tap the key switch setup button, and where it says play piano key, just set that to disabled. And now when I swipe over to key switch info, you can see that it's totally blank and we can set our own custom note messages. So let's go ahead and do that. First thing I need to do in Contact is to switch over to the UACC system. And you do that by clicking this lock and pressing locked to UACC. So now let's go back into edit mode. And each key switch has 3 custom outputs that can be assigned. So let's assign our first key switch. And if I click in Contact on the first key switch, I can see that it says UACC CC number 42. Now that's a bit misleading. Really, this is CC number 32 at the value of 42. So that's what we're going to assign in Composer Tools Pro. So for the output, let's set the type to be a controller, and the controller number is 32, and the value is 42. And that's it. Let's keep going. If I click on the next key switch, it's value of 40. So it's a CC32 at the value of 40. The next one is pizzicato, which is 56. Then Colegno is 58. Long is 1. Long consort is 7. Tremolo 11. Low octaves short is 45. And low octaves long is 3. Cool. So now if I go to key switch info, you'll see there's our custom outputs that we've just assigned. So let's give it a try. Spiccato's working. Spic/stack, pits, Colegno, long consort, trem, low octave short, and low octaves long. All right, so that's it. This preset is totally set up, and you can use both methods, either notes or UACC. In fact, it's easy to switch back and forth between the two since Composer Tools Pro version 1.1.6, because if you go to edit mode and then tap the key switch button, you can switch play piano key to another mode called exclusive. And what that does is it actually overrides your custom outputs with the basic piano note. So if I go back into key switch info, you'll see that our original notes are back, but this time they have a little star beside it. And that's just indicating that they're overriding the custom outputs. So if you're working with another composer and maybe he prefers note messages, you can switch back and forth between them. The piano key exclusive mode is also used in the Cubase expression map converter. So if you're a Cubase user, please be sure to go check out that video to see how it's used. All right, so let's do another preset. Let's do the Woodwinds. We've got Woodwinds High. Let's do that one. Now, are you going to start completely from scratch? No, of course not. You're going to copy as much of the settings as possible between the two presets. So let's go into the directory. I'm going to select copy, choose the preset that I want, and we only want to copy one, so I'm going to say number of selections 1. Select the paste destination. I'm just going to paste it right below it. Now, we want to keep basically all of our settings except only the things that are going to be different. And what's going to be different? Title is going to be different, of course. So I'm going to deselect that. The instrument's going to be different. I'm going to deselect that. And the key switches are going to be different. So I'm going to deselect that. Now, when I copy, I can choose either delete old, which will actually delete those settings. So it's more like a move, or you can keep old, which is really like a copy. So I'm going to keep old. So let's take a look. And all of our faders are there, except the title, of course, is blank, and the key switches are blank, of course, too. There's one other thing that's actually different about this preset. If you take a close look in Contact, you'll see that it's missing a vibrato slider. So there's two ways we can go about this. We could just disable this vibrato slider so that everything stays in the same position and we just don't see it. Or we can just override it, and that's my preference. I want to see just what's available to me, regardless of the truth about the rest of the universe, of the Spitfire sample library universe. So I'm going to move all the faders over by one position. And the way that you do that is in edit mode, you've got another mode called move. So I select the fader I want. I'm going to move the released fader. And then I'm going to select the position I want to move it to. And then I want to say replace. It's going to overwrite that fader. And it's moved down. So I'll just keep going. Replace and expression, replace. Cool. So now that's set up. So let's go and edit the basic preset information. This is Spitfire Albion. Oops. One. Woods. High. And the instrument, of course, is going to be Woodwinds. It's an ensemble Woodwinds patch, so I'm just going to say Woodwinds. Let's actually take a look in the directory at how that looks. So you can see we've got a title and we've got search tags. So now if I want to see all of my Spitfire libraries, we get 2 entries. I'm not going to go through the whole UACC demo because we saw how to do that. So I'm just going to set up the basic key switches using note messages. Let me just select the right track in Cubase here so that I get MIDI. And there we go. So the first articulation is short. And the next one is long. And the next one is short arranged. Now, when I type this, it's going to not fit on a key. It's going to say ARRAN ... And I'm actually going to leave it like that. And the reason is that's basically how I would have abbreviated it anyway, short ARRAN. But also, if you go and change the key switch layout to pads, you'll see that it fits okay. That's one of the advantages to the pads layout, is that you have more room for text on each pad. So I'm just going to leave it like that so that you can choose which view you like. And the last one is long arranged. Cool, so that's it. This preset is done. Let me just save that. It's always a good idea to save your work as you go. Just overwrite what's there. And the last thing I want to do is to set up Composer Tools recall. So I need to start screen sharing on my master computer. So I'll be right back. All right, so of course I'm going to set this up for Cubase because that's the DAW that I'm using right now. But you should go to the knowledge base and see how this is done for Logic and Digital Performer because of course it's different. But the principle is still the same. You press the title bar in Composer Tools Pro, and that sends controller 127 to your DAW. And then on each track in your DAW, you assign a transformer which converts that message to a unique address, like a unique ID, and then send it back to Composer Tools Pro, and that will load the preset. So the first thing I need to do is just give this preset a recall message. So I'm going to start with the strings patch. And if I go to edit mode and tap the title bar, there we can edit the recall address. And we're going to assign it just to the first empty one, which is program number 0 on channel 1. So in Cubase, I need to enable a MIDI send, and I'm sending on internal MIDI 9. This is loop BE30 on PC. And you can see that in Composer Tools Pro, if I go to the prefs, in my Connections tab, the Composer Tools Pro target is target 0 for in and out. And then in Lemur's More Settings page, you can see that target 0 is going from internal MIDI 9. So that's what it's listening for. So that's where I'm sending it out of. So I now need to enable a transformer, and we want to listen to a message whose type is a controller and whose controller number is 127. And then we want to convert that into a program change message. So the type now becomes a program change. And the program number, we set it to 0. And then the channel, we set it to 1. And I have to set this to insert exclusive. All right, so let's give that a try. I'm going to go to a different track and hit recall. And there we go. All of our controls just pop up in front of us. Let's do the Woodwinds. In the directory, I'm going to go to edit the title bar, And where it says recall, where it says recall, I'm going to give it the next available program number, which is 1. So in Cubase, I need to, again, insert a transformer here, send it on internal MIDI 9. Let's intercept a type of controller, and the controller number is 127. And the type will become a program change. And the program number, now that's going to be 1. And the channel is still going to be 1. And set to insert exclusive. All right, let's give that a try. Let's go to a different track in Composer Tools Pro and try it out. Oops, I'm not record enabled. There we go. There we go. And it's all set up. All right, so that's it, guys. I hope that was informative and useful. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.